Okay, I don't usually do recordings. This is very new to me, but I feel like it's easier than typing a status once a week or every other week to discuss certain things. But first things first, as you see, my name is Asia Chanel, however you want to say it. Just to give you some background on me, and as a disclaimer, I am not a therapist or a certified life coach. However, I do like to talk about the hard or important things um, when it comes to just life in general, as well as you know, trauma and things, just from my own experience and from others too. To give you a little background, I do have an associate's in psychology at the current moment, so I do know a little bit, a little something. Um, but I also just enjoy talking to people about their situations, about what has happened to them, and just give them feedback if wanted or needed, because sometimes people don't. But today, I just felt like I wanted to discuss a certain topic. Um, Again, as a disclaimer, I am not a therapist, nor am I a certified life coach. Um, I am just somebody who lives life just like the rest of us, who started her healing journey a couple years back. Still going through it, because as we all know, healing is linear. There is no end point, and that just like to discuss the bumps and bruises that I have encountered on the way, that I know other people have encountered. Though people talk to me, I don't do like certified sessions. However, I'm always open. My inbox is always open. Anybody who knows, I'll talk about anything. But today, something I want to talk about, something I've discussed on Facebook a lot. Well, if you follow me on Facebook, pay attention, is forgiveness. I think we talk a lot about forgiving other people for the things that they've done, forgiving other people for betraying us, for hurting us, for leaving us hanging, etc., etc. List goes on. However, I think one piece of the self-love puzzle that we forget, or the forgiveness puzzle that we forget, is how to forgive self. And a lot of people don't think about that. What I mean by self-forgiveness as a definition is, to give you a definition, is basically forgiving yourself, just forgiving yourself for the actions you may have taken, forgiving yourself for the things you may have said, forgiving yourself for the choices you have made, which is such a big one for a lot of people. Just forgiveness. I know that a lot of people struggle with it. I see it up and down my timeline a lot, that people, the way people say things about certain situations, you can tell that they're attempting to forgive, but they're missing the piece of the puzzle where you forgive yourself. Forgiving yourself is more important than people realize. As young adults, even as children, we make decisions. We all have encountered a situation where we had to make a decision, whether it be left, right, up, down, whatever the decision may have been, or we've had to, I guess it'd be just make a decision, or we were put in a situation where we felt like one decision was the only decision we could make. And I think that a lot of us chose decisions that we realize now did not pan out how we thought. For one, things happen, life happens, and that will never stop. So that you can't really harp on. Also, with making decisions, sometimes you have to make the best decision for the time, for where you are at the moment. You have to make, I tell people all the time, you have to make the best decision for the best decision at that moment with the information and the tools that you had then at that time. You cannot think about what I will have in the future sometimes. You cannot think about what happened in the past. You have to be present, or most times, you are present in that decision. And like I said before, sometimes those decisions don't pan out. The choices you made don't work in your favor like you thought, or they don't work out in the grand scheme of things. The first step is to know that that is okay, because again, life happens, and sometimes you think you make one decision, it's going to go one way, and it goes the opposite way, and that's something you have to come to grips or grasp with. Grips with is a better word. But like I said before, I find a lot of people up and down my timeline regretting, for lack of a better word, the fact that they made a certain decision or decided to deal with certain people or decided to do certain things. And they judge themselves very harshly. As they say, we are our own biggest critic. And they judge themselves very harshly on those things. And you could tell a lot of people have not forgiven themselves for what they decided to do. But I'm here to tell you that, you should, and it's okay. Again, and I'll probably repeat this more and more. It's like my favorite quotes. You made the best decision at that moment with the information and the tools that you had. Point blank, period. And I think once more people understand that and grasp that concept, there will be a lot more self-forgiveness. Forgiving self does start with you. I do not, and y'all put in the comments if you believe there's another way, that self-forgiveness can truly start with anybody else except for you. And you just kind of have to take it a step at a time when you realize you quote unquote messed up, right? So for instance, I always see a lot of females and males who regret the partner, whether it be, or not regret, who dislike the fact that they chose a partner, and they look and they say, had I not chose A, I wouldn't be in the situation I'm in now. Okay, well, you chose A for a reason at that moment, right? And you made the best decision for you at that moment. So how can you be mad at, you can be mad at yourself, but you kind of have to look back and say, okay, I made that decision at the time with what I knew. Point blank, period. Now, of course, there are some of us who were just reckless back in the day and made certain decisions without taking everything into account. And I think we have to forgive ourselves for those decisions as well, because sometimes we know things are dangerous or not in our best interest, and we still decide, you know what, I'm still gonna do it, whether it be to piss somebody off, whether it be just to exert some kind of dominance or whatnot. And I think we have to forgive ourselves for those things too. It could be something like just deciding to deal with certain people, knowing that they were no good. Because sometimes we know, and we know they're not the best person or our best interests at heart, but we still decide, you know what, I'ma still see what's up. And then you end up years down the line, for lack of a better word again, regretting that decision, because now you're with have a child by this person and they're not doing right, or you end up with a lot of trauma, or even like trauma and stuff from them. And sometimes we beat ourselves up and say, well, why did I do that? Why did I decide to deal with that person at the time? At that time. And that's okay. Again, you have to learn how to forgive yourself for those decisions that you made. Never let anybody make you feel bad either. There are people out here who be like, well, why would they? Again, you did what you felt was necessary at the time, and for those naysayers, or people who always have something negative to say, this is not to provide an excuse. This is not to say go out and rob a bank and later on just forgive yourself for what you did. Oh, you made the best decision at the time being because you needed the money. No, we're speaking about decisions that you made, a couple years ago that now you're looking back on like, oh, like had I not, what I'm saying? A lot of people will say, well, had I not went out that night and met this man, I wouldn't be in this, I guess, but I'm saying like, as far as had you not decided to lay down with this man or woman, or had you, those types of decisions, just to clarify, because I know how some people think. I think that a lot of people block that part. They skip that part in the healing process, because you hear a lot, oh, forgive those who have, done things to you, and it'll make you feel better. And I will say, forgiving those who have wronged you does make you feel better. I will say that. I can honestly say that from my own experience. However, I had to dig even deeper, because I was like, okay, I feel better. However, I still feel like I'm still beating myself up about what happened and what could have happened, what I could have prevented from happening. And that's when I realized I hadn't forgiven myself. I hadn't forgiven myself for making those decisions. I hadn't forgiven myself for putting me in certain situations. I hadn't forgiven myself for listening to trusted people or trusted adults and making decisions based on what they said and it not panning out correctly. And so like I said, self-forgiveness is important, very important. It's very overlooked. I see from talking to a lot of people, it's very pushed to the side, But one thing you have to remember is that you have to live with you. You don't have to live with another soul on this earth. Not your child, not your mom, not your sister, your brother, your cousin. At the end of the day, it's you. And you have to be able to live with yourself. And if you can't live with yourself and your decisions, it's going to be a rough road. Always second guessing, always trying to figure out, did you do the right thing? Like not trusting yourself. And so you have to learn how to deal with self so that you are able to deal with self, for lack of a better term, for lack of better wording. So I challenge everybody today to forgive. I don't know if you guys have a journal. I don't know if you guys have just a notebook you write in. For instance, hold on, I have one. This is mine. I actually published this on Amazon. I'll put the link. It's a journal, You can write down your thoughts. If I haven't started writing yet, I'm not good at journaling, but it is a good thing to do. So I challenge everybody today to just write down a couple things you felt like you made the wrong decision or you went the wrong route, and write down why you haven't forgiven yourself. as far as journal prompt, what is one thing you haven't forgiven yourself for, and why haven't you? Um, what what prompted you to make that decision in that moment? What made you feel like it was the best decision at that moment? And I think once you do that and start unraveling all the different things, and you don't have to write everything down now, and once you start unraveling why you made certain decisions, how you made certain decisions, things will start coming full circle and making sense for you. And you'll start, as I said before, that self forgiveness process. And before you know it, you'll be like, I did what I had to do in that moment. Even for reckless decisions, you may say, you know what, at that moment, at 16, I did what I felt I wanted to do. you know Even as far as that, what I feel like I did what I wanted to do in that moment, and though it panned out to A, B, and C, I forgive myself for making that decision. I was young, I was a child, I was, living life how I want to live. So I challenge everybody today to forgive yourself. To every time you go to forgive somebody, forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for whatever um, you feel like is your quote unquote fault. I don't like using that word. Um, but to just, forgive yourself. If you want, you can DM me. We can talk about it. I'm all for it. You can leave it here in the comments if you feel comfortable expressing that to others, but you don't have to. So this is a social media platform. Some things are not for social media. But yeah, just self-forgiveness. Remember to forgive self. You are the most important person in your story. So you have to learn how to live with you. And a part of that is self-forgiveness. But that's all I have for y'all. If y'all have any questions, comments, or concerns, like I said, anything you want to talk about, I'm here. Just hit me up. Y'all have a good day.